How much of sales is mindset, attitude, perspective, reaction, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and what we do with it? So many times I talk to salespeople all day long. They have limiting beliefs, what they think can and cannot happen. Now, what if you had the optimism, the persistence, the determination, and the playfulness to look at it a different way? We're going to be talking to a listener today, somebody who has been very successful and has a great attitude, a great perspective, especially when he sells in the most difficult of situations. And you're going to hear his energy. And if you watch the video on YouTube, you'll see it. And a lot of this is youth, I think, because I talk to a lot of people later in their career, and they've gotten beaten down. Everything they say has legitimacy to it. It's not that it's so much wrong as just limiting. And those limits become limits. They become the cage that we build ourselves into, and we hold the key. And we sit there in the cage waiting for the cage to fall apart or open, and we have the key to open it. I've been kind of convinced over the last 2+ years about mindset. Before this, I didn't pay enough attention to it because I had the motivation, I had the desire, I had the competitiveness, and that was enough. But also, like everybody has limiting beliefs. And we react or overreact to a particular situation. Sound familiar? And we limit what we can do based off of what we believe is either possible or realistic. Now, I'll kind of sum up what I've learned a lot from the classes, because since teaching sales, I have become such a better salesperson, almost exponentially. You like that? Instead of linearly. And why? Because I'm hearing different perspectives on sales. It gets me out of the limiting beliefs, the limiting perspectives, and challenges me to think about sales under different contexts, selling to different people, people who I haven't sold to before, and how to become better. And this is really what I've wanted to do with the podcast, not just for the audience, but for myself, is get out of the ruts and keep compounding and try and have at least a linear increase in selling skills, because it's turned into my career, my art form, and it's what I have a passion for, to be able to articulate change, to be able to connect with other people, to be able to have them see the world the way I see it, the way I want them to see it. Because we're all selling something of tremendous value. But we also got to meet people where they are and bring them to where we want them to be. And that's a step-by-step process. So, am I babbling too much before I get into the interview? I just want to set this up. So I want you to think at least linearly getting better, if not exponentially. And the key to exponential growth is compounding, meaning that every day you build upon the previous day, instead of the Groundhog Day where you live the same day over and over, if you get where I'm going with that one. But how do you do that? You got to get it out of your head. Start every day. Like Memento, I don't know if you ever watched that movie. The guy had no memory from the previous day, so he had to have tattoos put on his hands to remind him of stuff. Now, most of us aren't that bad, but a lot of us, we don't really record our mistakes. We really don't learn from other people's mistakes, and that's genius. Genius is the ability to not have to make the mistake and see someone else do it and not do it. Let's get into the interview. I really enjoyed this one. I should have put it up sooner. I'm sorry. I got a great backlog, which is good. The bad part is, I don't want to be putting out 5 episodes a week, saturating you. I want to put the energy and get the best ones out as fast as I can and really do a good intro and a summary of them. If you're in the courses, make sure you listen to the very end. I'll give you an update on the magic, the compounding of the community, people learning from each other. It's turning into, I think, the world's largest database of one-on-ones, office hours, where you get a community. It's almost turning into a mastermind in a way. So make sure you're listening to them. Also, check out our friends over at CoVideo. Video email is one of the things that is helping people to connect today. Video just blew up. Everyone's doing it now. Everyone should be doing it. Since face-to-face isn't as convenient as it used to be, we need to connect with other people. Give it a try. Just set up for a trial, play with it, see if it adds value to you, and send your first video email today. Let's get into the interview. Hey, Curtis, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Brian. 29 years old. I'm in San Francisco, California. Come from initially from being an air traffic controller in the United States Air Force, starting my company while doing that at the same time, selling that company and coming to San Francisco for the dream to make technology and digitally transform an industry. So,
yeah. And how do you go from air traffic controller to sales guy?
That's a great question. I think it kind of boils down to like opportunity. Air traffic control, you make great money. It's an awesome job. You learn a lot of interesting skills. But I think kind of going, thinking about long term, I was like, what's the opportunity? What's the maximum opportunity here? You can tap out very, very quickly.
Yeah. And what are you selling today?
So today we sell a digital platform for freight brokerages, and our platform connects to an existing ERP system to add digital capabilities, digital booking capabilities to an existing legacy system.
Okay. And who do you sell to? So, not only companies, but the persona.
Yeah, so definitely two companies, but the persona that we look for is the legacy freight brokerage that has no access to high-tech engineering or, really access to the new technologies. So a persona for me is a freight brokerage that's, maybe north of 60, 70 million in revenue, that's got a really, legacy robust system in place. And they're ready to take the next step to add some more efficient technology to what they've got in place today.
Yeah. And what type of price point is it? Is it tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands?
It can go from, I think the lowest price point is about 41K ARR. And then we've got customers up in the 200 ARR. So it can get pretty, depending on the size of the organization, it's definitely an enterprise sell for sure.
Yeah. And how many deals do you need to do a year?
So we're a young company, right? Parade is as a true startup. We really got the company going in 2018. I came on as employee one, so me and the three co-founders, right? Employee one.
There was nobody there before you.
Well, there was the three co-founders, but right, there was nobody there, right? And so when we look at how many deals you need to go, year one is the trailblazing, right? We didn't know anything as far as that goes. We were trying to launch a product and get our first customers. In the first year we launched in 2018, launched the product September 2018. And the three co-founders said, hey, Curtis, you came out of the industry. You owned a freight brokerage. It's your job to get this into as many brokerages as you can. And I did it 50 times, like September 2018 in that first year. And so we kind of came out hot and heavy. So maybe that's the mark we have to hit this year, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty exciting. How did you go about that? 50 is a lot.
So I kind of look at, I think that you can sell a lot of different things. There's a lot of different methods and sales methodologies out there. I took a really, I would say more laid back approach in the sense of, okay, I know that companies have these three core challenges that we solve for. The reason why I know that is because I owned the company. The only reason why I'm sitting in this seat is because I said, I believe in the vision. If I was a company, I would need this product. So there's other companies like this, right?
Yeah.
And so for the first year going into sales calls with freight brokerages, it was so easy for me to level with these people. hey, I do what you do. I've done it for 6 years. I own the company. So like it creates that, they let they let the guard down, and I say, hey, you're facing these three problems. And they're like, we are. Of course we are. Our business is exactly the same as your former business, right? So like for that first year, it was super easy to connect to these business owners and say, hey, we have the solution. It's never been built before, but now it's finally here. Are you looking to solve these challenges? And it was never no. And if it was a no, it wasn't a no like we're not going to do it. It was more like a no. Hey, we're upgrading our legacy TMS system. Like once that's done, then we'll be ready to add something like this, right? So it's more of a not yet, right?
Okay.
So,
and was it just you in sales that first year?
Just me, yeah. So it was. I sat right next to the CEO, and he said, "Curtis, we're depending on you." And I think that's kind of interesting. Like when you look at, like I started when I started my company before this, I was in the same position, right? Hey, Curtis, you're running the sales and the operations for this company. My brother was the other co-founder. He was doing, the rest of the business as far as like admin, CFO, that sort of thing. And so I've been in a position where, hey, we're depending on you before. So like when I came here and when that was hey, just letting you know, the first year you're going to be the first sales guy, we're depending on you. It's what I do. It was what I was doing currently at the time. So it was an easy transition. I was like, not a problem. Been there before. Now I don't have to worry about payroll and all the other business owner pieces. I just have to go sell, which is actually something I didn't get to do at my old company because I was dealing with operations of the actual organization. Now they handle most of that, right?
And I can certainly see that peer-to-peer element. I had that when I first started in sales. I was selling to people who did what I did.
Right.
And you knew their problems and everything.
Yeah.
But the challenge I ran into is I didn't know how to get the company to buy into it. I got the users to buy into it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because you still got to get people to spend money and get a purchase order done. And
yeah. And I think that that's probably like the next piece, right? Everybody says yes, but when it comes to writing the check, like that's when the real talk begins, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I don't want to say that was easy for us because it definitely wasn't. Like there were some people when it came to the price point, it was always yes. And then the money just, if we didn't show enough value up front, they couldn't justify the ROI spend. And the way that I kind of handle that is if we can get you in the door, if we can show you some value on some really easy pieces, right? Yeah. So the way that I think about it is like, a customer may pay $14,000 a month when said and done for our platform, but they didn't start out paying $14,000 a month on day one.
Right.
We came in and we said, let's solve this one challenge, like one of our products. Let's get you in solving this piece. If we show value here, then let's talk about the rest of the stuff because you do need this stuff and you did agree that you need this stuff, but let's show value here and let's land and expand.
Right.
And that's kind of what helped us, I think, along the way, get through some of those challenges.
So after doing 50, they promoted you to strategic sales manager?
Yeah, titles are fun at startups. So what came with that promotion was absolutely nothing. I'm doing exactly what I was doing before. But the goal, I think, was when they said, hey, you're going to be doing this. We're a young company. Everybody here, I think there's one guy older than me. He's 30 and I'm 29. So he's the oldest guy here.
Yeah.
But with that title, comes the opportunity to hire and train new account executives under me and manage the SDR. So we have an SDR function as well. Manage the SDRs under the account executives. So I'm still a contributor in that sense, but I'm now also responsible for bringing account executives in the door, training them, coaching them, and managing that entire process. So added responsibility, but still in that self-contributor role for sure.
Now that you have other people there, they probably don't have your background, right?
Well, okay. So then you talk about the hiring process, right? So there's a lot of people in our industry that have freight sales background, right? They work at freight brokerages and they understand freight brokerages and they're sales guys at freight brokerages, but they don't sell software, right? So they have the background, but they don't have any idea, like you mentioned.
Technology.
Well, like you mentioned in your past life, right? I know how to get the users on board, but can they
Right.
actually,
That's
get somebody to sign a deal, right?
yeah. At best, that's half.
Exactly. At best, that's half. So I think you have, when the way that we look at it, I guess I'm unique hybrid. Like it seems that I can do both, which is great. And that's, everybody made a good decision bringing me on. I'm very thankful for it. I don't feel that we'll cross that, we'll find that hybrid role that often ever
Right.
again. So the way that I think of it is, what would you rather have? Would you rather have the industry experience, or would you rather have the guy that knows sales technology, right? The way that I look at it, and this is my personal opinion, and everybody on the podcast could completely disagree with me, but one of the things that I feel is harder to teach is what a freight brokerage is. When I say freight brokerage, do you have any idea? Like,
I have no idea. I
No
mean, I
idea.
ran shipping and receiving when I was
Sure.
just got out of school.
Right.
But that
Like,
wasn't free. I mean, I just call UPS up and they picked it up.
exactly. See, like, and that's what most people's, that's what they think of. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you mean like DHL and FedEx? And it's like, no, it's not even, you're not even in the realm. You're not even in the same industry at that point. So I like to look at people that come from the industry. Like, I know that people in our industry, guys that own these companies, they've been doing it for 20, 30 years. They've been in the industry a long time. It's probably one of the only industries they've ever been in.
Yeah.
Odds of them listening to the run-of-the-mill guy that can sell SaaS software here at SF is very low. That guy's going to have a lot harder entry point than a guy that says, hey, I worked at Coyote for 20 years. I know the game. Let's talk about some of your challenges. Let's create a business use, for change, a business case for change here. Let's talk about some of the technologies that you want to get to. And I've got the solutions for you. But like, if you don't understand the business inside and out, I feel like in this industry, and I'm sure everybody thinks this, like their industry is the best in that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's kind of what they call business acumen.
Yeah.
You got to understand your client's business, but you also have to understand how to sell.
Right.
And it's hard to get both in the same person.
It totally is. And I think that the acumen, I think, is harder to teach because if they're in my office here, I can coach on selling, right? Yeah. We can walk through, hey, what's the blocker on this deal? If this deal is blocked, did you ask our discovery questions? Did you walk them through some of these challenges? Did you get them to agree that these exist in their world?
Yeah.
If you didn't do any of those, we can fix that. Like we can teach you to do that more often, right?
That's it. In the technology space, there's a high success rate taking the pre-sales engineers and turning them into salespeople.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's some of your background, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was like a pre-sales engineer before there were pre-sales engineers.
Right.
I was an engineer who talked to customers.
Right.
I was the one who smelled the best. That wasn't saying much. Yeah. And I was willing to travel and I was willing to present, and English was my first language, and there's a lot of things, and the reps liked working with me.
Right.
But when I found out how much they made, I became very interested in sales.
Yes, that changes it, right? You're money motivated to a point, but you see the upside potential in that. Absolutely, move over into sales. So I don't know. When we talk about hiring here, I think too, like when you look at the company, like one of the philosophies we have at the company is you have to come from the trench, because like this trench there's a lot of camaraderie. It's a good old boys club. And if you come from the trench, it's just that much easier to have that conversation with the person. We'll coach you on selling. We'll get you in there and we'll teach you some basic processes, because at the end of the day, like I was listening to one of your other podcasts and it was the gentleman who's in Indiana selling the granite or something like that.
Yep.
Kyle. Kyle, exactly. And so like at the end of the day, he said it perfect. If you can sit down and listen to a customer, they will literally give you the roadmap. They will tell you these are the things we're facing. And if you have the opportunity to just sponge that, repeat what they said, like we can now move forward in the deal, right? And I think that he said that perfectly. I couldn't agree with him more. Yeah,
I mean, you certainly have to have some people skills, because you can't take somebody from,
someone who doesn't like people, who's a total introvert and has no desire.
Yeah.
Right. And it's hard to get that right mix. And,
It definitely is. And it is hard to find that, because sitting down and talking, like right now, we've never met. Talking to strangers is difficult for some people.
It is. Well, on the hierarchy, it's, next to death.
Yeah.
Right? So, as far, and you know why? Because our primal brain, talking to a stranger and getting rejected means you're off the island.
Yes, that's true. The fear of rejection.
You're outside, you're ostracized, which is equal to death.
Yep.
Because you can't survive on your own.
Yep.
And that's the impulses that are going through our brain.
Right.
So, and a lot of companies solve it by having pre-sales people where their job is to talk biz, usage, and then the sales rep kind of guides the deal on the business side.
Yeah.
But when you're a startup, you have to do it all, right?
You do. You definitely have to do it all. I mean, you're playing every role. You're walking the deal from start to finish, and even through the negotiation of, even large enterprises. You're still the contract guy. You're the who do we send this contract to? Oh, just send it to me. My people will take care of it. Send it to me.
Right. My people.
Yeah.
Now, where did you develop these skills? Was it having your own business?
Yeah, so I think that I didn't develop these skills controlling traffic.
No, you didn't. Well, you certainly come up with clear communication, right?
Definitely got clear communication and problem solving skills, thinking on your feet. That's where I learned that. But actually, like navigating the business world, I actually think I did it backwards than most people. I think you see a natural progression of people where they say, if I'm going to go start a company, or I'm going to be a sales leader, I'm going to start on the ground floor and work my way up to get to that position, or to that new business. Yeah. I took the exact opposite path. I said when I was 22 years old, I know everything, which I didn't. And I'm going to go start a company, and I'm going to go get customers, and I'm going to hire people, and I'm going to provide this service, right? So the way that I think about it, and I personally didn't go to college. How did I learn these skills? Back to your question, is when I started my company, it was a lot of trial and error, touching a lot of hot irons. And if ever a mistake was made that resulted in the loss of actual physical dollars, my brother and I had an agreement that we wouldn't get upset about it. We would learn from that mistake, and whatever that dollar amount was, we would check that off and mark that as a tuition payment to the School of Hard Knocks.
And it is.
Yeah, it is.
And the mistake people make is they pay the price, but don't get the lesson.
But don't learn. Exactly. So kind of when we go back to like, where did you learn these skills? Like when you go out and you start a company yourself, and you're the sole contributor, and then of course, maybe you've got employees as you scale, right? You learn a lot of that on the fly, and that lesson sinks in every time, because there's so much on the line from a risk standpoint. You don't have a lot of room to not learn. You can only make that same mistake once. You can't do it 10 times or you go out of business, right? So I think very early when I was learning sales skills and negotiating skills, like it was, the rubber was hitting the road immediately. Like there was no trial, there's no room for error. And so when you do get an opportunity to learn, soak it up as quickly as you can and just continue pushing forward. Now I will say, right, so I don't know if I recommend people going straight into business ownership without taking that path, because I will say,
well, yeah, because everybody thinks, oh, I'll just hire a marketing person, or I'll do a blog, podcast, and the business will just come flying in.
Yeah, what they don't realize is you're the person that has to dream up all the content. They may be doing the physical work, right?
And still people want to talk to you. They no matter how inexpensive it is, they need social proof. They need to know that it's real. Yep.
No, you're absolutely right. And I would say, like, when I moved into where I'm at now, gave me an opportunity to learn so much more, right? Because when you're operating the business, you're trying to learn lessons in multiple areas, like ownership, operations, sales, people management. You're trying to be jack of all trades. When I moved into this role, it gave me an opportunity to say, oh, I should actually really refine and define a sales process. I should have an actual step-by-step method, and I can devote 100% of my time to that. So I would say like I grew a ton by even at a small startup, right? Coming into this role, getting the opportunity to talk to large enterprises, publicly traded companies, which I didn't have access to that prior to. Now I do. And so I've learned kind of like I've leveled up that skill, right?
And how do you go about justifying the purchase? Because you got the users of the thing, they love it.
Sure.
They see the value,
Yep.
but it's not their money. They have no budget authority.
Mm-hmm.
They probably aren't that well politically connected at the company.
Right. So I think that now you're getting kind of into like a post-sale process, right?
No, even to buy it.
Oh, even to buy it, right? Even just like showing them ROI to begin with. I think it comes.
They're going to get a quote from you, and it's just going to be a bunch of line items, and their manager's going to be like, "Oh, what is this? Why do I need it?"
Yeah, and so the way that, and I guess before we ever talk numbers, like there's kind of a process that I follow.
Yeah.
Usually, that manager or that kind of like lower level person, we know he's not the decision maker, right? And those numbers aren't going to mean anything to him. He doesn't have authority, he doesn't have budget, any of that. I use that person as my champion. Right. I say, hey, you want this. It's solving these pains. Like we agree there. Before we talk pricing, you and I as a team are going to champion the stakeholders into the room. So for me personally, we'll maybe talk some pricing. I could say $1 million or $10. It doesn't matter to him.
Right.
But to really have an effective conversation, it's actually, I put it on him to say, hey, if we want to do this, who are the next people that we need to talk to? And generally for us, it's the CEO, the CFO, and the CTO.
Yeah.
And so I use that as a kind of a entry point to gather those additional stakeholders. And then me, maybe in one other person from my company and that champion, we then realign the entire company. Hey, these are the challenges that are actually happening in the business today. These are the solutions that are going to solve them. Now let's have an actual conversation and move forward in the process. So it's just creating the champion. I think a lot of people miss that.
Or the champion thinks they're the decision maker. They have access, right?
True. Yeah. They don't want to admit that they're just.
Of course not, right? Yeah. And then that's probably where it gets stuck, or you've seen it get stuck.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, I don't want to sit here and tell you that like out of the last year, every deal I've walked into has been a 100% success, and that process works every time because it's just not true.
Yeah.
But you're right; it does get stuck. You find a champion in the company, and sometimes what I see, a champion that gets stuck is usually a person that's too stuck in the weeds. Like they're actually literally operating in the business to where they're putting out fires at any given moment, whether they're important fires or not. But like they're so busy doing their day to day that they literally don't have the time to go get those decision makers. Exactly. Yeah. To fix it. It's exactly it. So those deals, maybe they're a loss today, but again, maybe find a new champion. Maybe talk to that person and say, hey, I know you're really busy. Who else in your organization makes sense to just, for me to maybe interact with? And sometimes it's easy of them saying, cool, let me introduce you to our CTO. Why don't you guys take this further and then kind of loop me back in as you guys progress further, right?
And how do you ever get stalled by the CTO? Where they don't like your stuff, or they've got something else installed, and you're stepping on their toes, or?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So like, I actually asked this to a CEO the other day who sells a SaaS enterprise, and his answer was, no, that never happens. And my question to him was, so this software, yes, it's great. It doesn't seem that hard to build, like face value. Like, do you ever get a CTO that has an engineering team that says, hey, this is great, you're going to charge us $100K a year for it, we could just build this ourselves? And he said, no. I was like, I don't believe you. I definitely do not believe you. Like, there's got to be a CTO out there that's got some pride that says, we build cool stuff here, we can do it. So for me, it happens all the time.
Right, because they're kind of naysayers or people who can slow down or stop a deal.
Sure.
Because they own the firewall and they own the cloud.
Exactly. Well, and they have goals, right? I mean, they're not just filling a seat.
They're not sitting around waiting for new stuff.
Yeah, like they're building things, and so the way that it happens in our business is it's usually so I can kind of sniff it out pretty quick. If I'm with the CTO very quickly, usually the CTO is there to either, like you said, naysayer or really just kind of like show us his timeline. And so the way that I see it often is a CTO will say, hey, this is great. Like, we plan on building this in the future. Like, so we'll build it in-house. Okay, that's totally fine, right? And so sometimes they don't see like the whole picture. If they try to rebuild what we do, a lot of times they face a lot of like we learned a lot building what we build. They haven't learned that yet. And when they do, they come back and say, interesting, I now kind of understand. So maybe we just didn't do a great job at like showing value and ROI where they were easy to naysay, but I've seen them come back a couple times and say, I understand now. Let's have a deeper conversation.
Cool. And what drives you as a salesperson?
What drives me as a salesperson? One, I want to make sure this company succeeds, right? So for me, I think it's a little different. I think that there's money motivated. There's people that, hate to lose, that sort of thing. For me, what drives being a salesperson at this company is I actually want to change this industry. I have a ton of pride about the industry that we work in. I had a company in it. Now I'm building technology for it. So for me as a salesperson, when I come into work every single day, I actually think that every single day at this company is changing logistics. So in 20 years, when somebody says, man, that's crazy when we underwent that digital transformation, what were some of the causes of that? I hope to be like in the top 3 causes of that, either myself or the company as a whole, right?
And as a salesperson, what do you believe to be true that most salespeople don't believe?
Oh, interesting. What do I believe to be true that most people don't believe? I think that some salespeople really undervalue the relationship of a prospect, and they try to jump in too quick, too fast. So we had a sales guy at our company that was a prime example of this, and it was very challenging. Like, he doesn't work here anymore, unfortunately. Like, we had to part ways, but no matter how much training we could do, he had no idea how to get onto a call with a customer or physically in person, connect with them, spend 10 to 15 minutes just connecting with them, because the features don't matter. It doesn't matter what the features of your product are. If you can't connect, identify pain, empathize, go through that process, you could show them 10,000 features and they literally just don't want to listen to you. So I think that some people miss the value of a relationship with a person, and that selling, no matter if you're in a transactional product or an enterprise product, at some point you need to take the time and be a human and just have a conversation with this person before they're going to let you do anything past that.
Cool. Hey, and where can people get in touch with you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You might, if you do follow me on LinkedIn, I'm always talking about transportation as much as I can. So I'm the only person in the country named Curtis Treiber with a K. So Curtis with a K, last name Treiber, Tryber. And follow me on LinkedIn. Love to reach out and just meet with other people, even not in our industry. If you're a salesperson that just wants to jam, happy to have a chat with you.
Magic happens when ability and energy meet. And that's the beauty of sales. What happens too often is when we're young, we have the energy, but we don't have the ability. And then once we get the ability, the energy tends to either go away or not be what it used to be. And some of it's okay. Because the older salespeople I meet, they're hyper-focused on the things that can and will close. The younger people, they go after everything, and you don't want to discourage that. You want to because it's learning. Making mistakes, it's learning. It takes a long time to learn and become good at it, and practice is one of the ways. And even if you might not be working on the great things. But I want to give everybody an update on the courses. I added the one-on-ones a little over a year ago, but what they're turning into is pure gold. Because if you learn by listening to how other people are solving the same problems, we're getting conversations started with CIOs, CEOs, CROs in minutes today. Now, are we talking about our product and buying it? Not yet. We got to start a conversation to get the meeting. We got to start. And it's not really slow. It's actually fast because you get a response immediately. But you have to build up that rapport. And I show you a scientifically proven way to do it. I implemented this about 7 years ago when I started my own business because I was doing what everyone was doing. Hyper-personalized, hyper-relevant. but they, knew who I was. There was a million sales trainers, consultants, authors, podcasters out there. They didn't know me. They didn't know why they should listen to me. And I just basically said, well, Brian, you've been doing this your whole life. What always works? And it's like studying it, breaking it down, testing it, building it up. And that's what I've been doing over the last 7 years with this. I first taught it in person. The challenge with doing it in person is you got to cover it in 1 to 2 days. And that's plenty of time to talk about the information, but to develop the skill takes a while. Like anything, it's a performance. How well do you talk to a stranger, any stranger, in person, or even a friend? How well do you have that conversation? If you're single, how well do you pick up somebody? Or how well is your first date? Are you nervous? Are you talking about yourself too much? What I do in this course is I show you exactly what to do, and you get to hear other people do it. It is by far the number one challenge that I hear everywhere. Everybody talks about cold calling and cold emailing. Well, sorry, that's not the way to do it. And I'm not talking about social selling either. I'm talking about human-to-human communication, mammal to mammal, without the bullshit about what's going on, talking about what they care about. And I show you easily how to do it. And the magic that's come out of it is that even people who have never sold a day in their life, who do not want to sell, but they have to, they're entrepreneurs. They're people who want to build their business. And to build your business, you got to get customers. And to get customers, they either come to you or you go to them. This course is for when you have to go to them, when you don't have a big brand. Nobody takes the course because they work for the hottest company out there and they're not able to get meetings. People come because nobody knows who they are, what they do, or why they need it, and they got to talk with people. That's why you got to start the conversation, get the meeting. Now, both this course and Closing the Complex Sale have the same structure. Core content, office hours, which is an hour meetup every other Friday on Zoom, recorded and put into the course. It's kind of a mastermind, community, Q&A, case study based. I sum up the one-on-ones that we've done in the previous 2 weeks, the lessons that I have learned, distinctions that I have found, distinctions that other people have shared with me, and everyone gets to discuss it, see if it matches what they're doing, get some variations. And the magic happens is when you get a couple hundred people polishing an idea and adapting it to their market, and then you see this in the course because everyone thinks their situation is unique. And to a certain extent it is, but you're still selling to another mammal. And to do that, you have to go through a certain sequence. And when you hear people on the one-on-ones sharing their success, where they're going from hating prospecting to loving it because they have a system that works. It makes sense. It has logic. It has a process. It's not pitching. It's not pushing. There's no rejection. It's natural and organic, and that's why people love it. So all you have to do is go to b2brevenue.com. It's all in the show notes. B2B, the letter B, the number 2, numeral 2, B revenue. You know what revenue is? Let's get some.com. You can check out the courses. You can sign up to talk through with me. I'll answer your questions. No pressure phone call. I don't try and close you on the call. I just giving you information about how it works, talking through what you're doing if I haven't told you enough about the course. The other course is Closing the Complex Sale. Now, both of these have unlimited one-on-ones, which is a 30-minute Zoom call with me talking about applying the course to your particular situation. And people say, well, how can you scale with that? Well, it's really focused on you guys, answering your questions, talking it through. They are recorded and put in the course anonymously, so no one knows your name, your company, your product, because that's not that relevant. Honest, it really isn't. What we're talking about is strategy and process and style and helping you understand where you are and where you want to go and coming up with ideas on how to do that. And it has the same format, office hours, one-on-ones, and core content, access to it for a year, not gated, go through it at your pace when you can, and it's the way to get compounding. How do you get compounding? You learn from others, both their successes and their mistakes, and how to prevent the mistakes and ensure the successes. Let's get on this. Let's not waste a minute of your life. The price is not going to go down. It's only going to go up. So take action today and make sure you just sign up. And if you need to talk about it, let's talk about it. There's plenty of people who have been through the course on the podcast. So you can listen to them. That's a success. If you don't have trust in me, listen to the podcast. And if you buy into my experience and what I've done, you'll understand that this is really a sincere opportunity, and it's me. There's no flunky, no little Brian, mini Brian that's going to be on this. It's all 100%. All the one-on-ones are with me. Office hours are with me. We'll see you there. Also, if you could share my content on LinkedIn, I'd really appreciate it. Put a little comment, a little like, a little share. Check out the YouTube channel as well, Brian Burns Sales on YouTube. And we'll see you next time. Really appreciate you listening. Tell somebody about the show. We'll see you next time.